So, welcome everybody. Happy 2023. You're not going to see me for the balance because we're going to do something a little different today. We got 8 people. This is a video where I'm going to test something new that has to do with dice rolling. And we're going to test it on a game which is a precursor. It's really a seminal game. And we have also here Jack O'Lantern 1028. Happy New Year, everybody. Happy New Year, ID Jester. And we have Mad Nerd Workshop, St. Louis Keith, and of course, this is another unannounced, and we have Steve O. Happy New Year, everybody. So, what we will be doing today, and let me switch to the other camera here. We'll switch to the regular camera. We will be playing this game. Israeli independence. This is the seminal States of Siege game. This is the most simple of all, but it has an importance because it's the first one. It's like what Tactics 2 was to commercial wargaming. Israeli independence is to States of Siege. And this is very basic, and you're going to see it's very basic, but I'm using this opportunity to test some die rolling application that makes things, I think, move faster and makes things more interesting. That's what you will be seeing. But I wanted to highlight this game because this year, 2023, most likely there will be a game based on States of Siege that is totally on the opposite spectrum. It has much more complexity, multiplayer, and the theme is really fascinating. It has to do with the German high command in World War II, which, as you know, Germany was like in a central position, first expanding and conquering and then being conquered. And it's a game that is going to be published by NAC War Games, a Spanish publisher. And I'm going to be able to take a look at it again at the BellotaCon this month in January. But today we will be playing Israeli independence. And here we have the map. It's a small map. And you can see that it has the usual hub, which in this case focuses around West Jerusalem. So if West Jerusalem falls, that's the end of the game. And it's over. So it's very simple. If you see any of the armies advancing on West Jerusalem, that's the end. Yes, this is a classic game that started it all. And another advantage about doing a video on this game is that nobody else is doing videos on this game. So you can say that I'm cornering the market on this one. And we have also Dead Wolf, and we have Meandering Mike. So this is the classic States of Siege game. It has some optional rules, but I'm not going to play with the optional rules. We have a deck of 24 cards. So we have to survive 24 cards. And we have also 3 Israeli offensive chits, which we can add to a turn, but these are consumed. We can use them once per game, so we got to be very careful when we use these offensives. And there are 5 tracks, and the tracks are going to have these armies: the Lebanese, the Syrians, the Egyptians, the Iraqis, and the Jordanians. So let's place the armies where they go. Let's start with the Jordanians, and they start here in the number 4 spot here in Transjordan. We have the Iraqis. They start in their number 4 spot, which is the Jordan border. We have also the Syrians that start at the Golan Heights. We have the weakest of all of the armies, and those are the Lebanese. They start there at Sidon. And of course, last but not least, we have the Egyptians, and they start at El Arish. Now, to push these armies back, we need to roll higher than the value of the army. So you can see that the most feared army is going to be the Jordanian army with 4. Then we have the Syrian army with 3, and we have the Egyptian army also with 3. And finally, we have we have also the Iraqi army with 3, and the weakest army, as we stated, is the Lebanese army. So those are the armies that we have to push back, and we have to survive 24 cards Okay, this is something. Yes, I really like the States of Siege games, and I think they televise well. So I'm not discarding doing something like on a more regular basis with the States of Siege games. So this is something that, for me, it's important that the game televise well. Otherwise, it's hard to watch. But that's a good point. And thanks, Meandering Mike. We have here. Oh, I didn't know that. That's I mean, this is the thing that started it all, and by today's standards, it's pretty rudimentary, but it's a series that is here to stay. So, okay, we have here Dead Wolf. This is one of those videos that are unannounced because I don't know how it's going to turn out. So let's see if it's enjoyable. So let's start the game. And we have the deck of cards here. These are 24 cards. We're going to be flipping those cards where it says action pile. And then you're going to see that it's going to advance some armies and give us a number of offensives. So let's start with the first card in the deck. I already shuffled the deck. And we will be reading the color text because, I mean, it makes it more interesting. These games are based on history. Attack on Hadassah Hospital. And the color text reads, on April 13, 1948, perhaps in response to the Deir Yassin massacre, Arab forces launched an attack on a medical convoy en route to Hadassah Hospital on the outskirts of Jerusalem. Around 77 doctors, nurses, and civilians were massacred in the attack. Okay, so this particular card gives us an advance by every slowest Arab army by one space. This is really bad because what slowest Arab army in a space means is the Arab army that is further behind. So this is a really bad way to start the game. That means that we have to, all the armies are in the number 4 box on the slowest of the boxes. So we have to advance, for example, the Egyptians, we have to advance everybody, the Jordanians, we have to advance the Iraqis, the Syrians, and we have to advance also the Lebanese. So this is like the worst way to start the game with that card. Now we have a total of 2 offensives, but the good thing is that we have a +1 added to our offensives. So at least that's something. And to remind me that we have that +1, I'm going to be using this little disc here. I'll place it there. So we have a total of 2 offensives. And the most feared army, of course, is the Jordanian army because it's the hardest to push back. So let's start by trying to push back. We have 2 offensives and a +1. We might as well use it to push that army back. So here comes the thing that is new and that I'm going to test today, which is the die rolling. So we're going to roll 1d6 and we add a +1. And the roll is a 5 +1, that's 6. So the Jordanian army goes back to Transjordan. So that is our first offensive. We have another offensive with a +1. We can't push that army back any further, so we might as well try to push another of the 3 strength armies. So let's push the Syrians. Let's push the Syrians back. We need higher than 3. We add a +1, and it is 4 +1, 5. So the Syrians also go back to the Golan Heights. So that was not shabby. That's the first card of the game. And we pushed both armies back. So that's not bad. So we got 23 more cards to go. So let's turn and flip the next card and take a look. And the next card is Operation Danny launched. Syria and Iraq advance. We have again 2 offensives with a +1 versus Jordan. The other ones were 2 offensives, against anybody else. These are just against Jordan. So I'm going to place the offensive marker, the how do you call it, the +1 marker there. Let's get a better angle. There you go. To remind us that we have 2 against Jordan. Now, Jordan, in this particular card, doesn't advance. It's Syria and Iraq. So let's advance those two armies. Here we see both armies. We got the Syrians advance into the number 3 Safed box, and Iraq into Domia. And we have two offensives, only a +1 against the Jordanians, but the Jordanians are not in their number 3 box, so we're going to have to attack somebody else. So let's go against let's start with the Iraqis. So here we go. We roll 1d6. Oh, we're rolling good. That's a 6. So the Iraqis go back to Jenin. Now let's try to push back the Syrians. We roll 1d6. And here we failed. So the Syrians stay at Safed. So that was the end of that card there. Now we flip the next card. See what it is. And it is Mideast War. Quiets as truce is declared. Let's take a closer look at this card here. See what the text means. The Israeli War of Independence was punctuated by brief truces between the parties. The first truce was declared on June 11, 1948. During the truce, UN mediator Count Folke Bernadotte recommended a partition plan which was rejected by both sides. Fighting resumed when Egypt broke the truce on July the 8th. And this particular card has Egypt advancing and no offensives. So this is pretty straightforward, and it's going to be a very short card. Oh, and I don't like where the Egyptians are. They are already in Gaza. So they advance to Beersheba. Beersheba, I don't know how you pronounce that. So that's that particular card. That's short. The action is short, not sweet. So we go back and we take a look at the next card. The next card is Palestinian refugees hamper operations. During the conflict, numerous Palestinian villagers fled or abandoned their homes, hampering operations by both sides. While the Israeli forces encountered less resistance from depopulated villages, the retreat of Palestinian Arabs inflamed Arab opinion and laid the seed for future conflict. Okay, and here in this one, it's going to be pretty painful because this card, all Arab armies on, what's that, round spaces, retreat 1 space. Oh, okay, this is good. And we have 1 offensive. On round spaces, retreat 1 space. So let's take a look at which Arab armies are in round spaces. And the only one that we can see that is in a round space is the Iraqi army. So that army is pushed back to the Jordanian border, which is its number 4 spot. And we have 1 offensive. So we can attack the Lebanese that have strength of 2, which are not very scary. I think the Egyptians are the ones we have to attack because they're in their number 2 spot. They're too close for comfort. So we attack the Egyptians. We don't have any modifiers, so here we go. We need higher than 3. And oh boy, 3, no, we failed. So the Egyptians, we got to keep an eye on them. They are very close, and that is the end of that card. And here you see the action on all fronts. So now we go to the next card, and that is Resistance at Degania. Let's take a look first at the color text. In May 1948, that's too far away, May 1948, staunch Israeli resistance at Kibbutz Degania, involving only light weapons, rebuffed the Syrian armor. The Syrian retreat itself was secured by the use of 19th century museum cannons. Okay, and in this particular situation, we have advances by Egypt and Iraq. We have 2 offensives and a +1 against Syria. So let's place that marker here in the Syrian track, next to the Syrian track to remind us. Let's place it a little bit closer there. Okay. So we first advance Egypt and Iraq. Oh, Egypt is too close for comfort. Egypt is now in the #1 box at Hebron. And the other advance is by the Iraqis. The Iraqis are their #4, so they move to Jenin. 2 offensives +1 versus Syria. So it's tempting to attack Syria, but we can't. As long as Egypt is there, let's use the first offensive against the Egyptians, and if we push them back, we may even roll the second one against them. So we have 2 offensives, and here we go. We roll 1d6, we need higher than 3. Oh, 2, that's a fail. Oh boy, so they're too close. I mean, they can win the game, and so we have to roll against the Egyptians again. So here we have our second action. And this time, yes, we push them back, and they go to their #2 spot. So they're still too close, but I don't want to burn any of our Israeli offensive counters unless we have to. Those are these 3 that you see here, which gives us free offensives. So we want to leave that for an emergency, of course. So that's the end of this turn. We remove the +1 die roll modifier marker from the Syrian track, and we move on to the next card. I think this is like the 5th or 6th card. Let's see. This card reads, Road to Jerusalem is blocked. Let's take a look at the flavor text first. In April and May 1948, Arab forces interdicted Israeli lines of communications into and out of the city of Jerusalem, thereby placing it under siege. And by June of 48, the Israelis were able to reestablish a supply line. And this particular card has Jordan advancing, and we have 2 offensives, but no attacks versus round spaces. Okay, hope I remember that. Well, I'll check it anyway. Let's have first the Jordanians. This is the strongest army in the game, currently at Transjordan. They advance to Jericho. Now we have 2 attacks, but not against round spaces. That means we can't attack the Jordanians. Of course, we want to attack the Egyptians. They're in their #2 spot. We have no modifiers, so we have 2 attacks. Let's start with our first offensive against the Egyptians. Push them back. We need higher than 3. And the roll is a 4. So the Egyptians are now in Gaza, and that gives us some breathing room. So now where should we attack next? We can't attack round spaces. So the Jordanians and Iraqis are no-no. You can try to attack the Egyptians again. They're at the same space as the Syrians. Something tells me that the Syrians may try to advance next. The Egyptians have advanced a lot. So let's try to push back the Syrians back to the Golan Heights. Here's our second and last offensive of the turn, and that fails. So that's the end of that particular card. And here we see the situation of the armies. The Egyptians and Jordanians and Lebanese and Iraqis are at 3, which is not alarming. We're okay. So let's go to the next card. And this is Operation Dekel, launched. Let's take a look at the flavor text first. In July, let me see if I got it all in shot. Okay, in July of 48, while fierce fighting was taking place in the Central Front, the IDF, Israeli Defense Forces, launched Operation Dekel in the northern region, capturing much of the Galilee and Lake Kinneret. This particular card gives us, well, first Egypt and Jordan advance. And then we have 2 offensives, a +1 die roll modifier versus Lebanon and Syria. So I'm going to place that +1 marker, Lebanon and Syria. I'm going to place it between both of them. So you see that track there. Okay. So first we advance Egypt and Jordan. Oh, Egypt is now again at the number 2 Beersheba space. And Jordan, which is the strongest and the most fearful of the armies, advances into Ramallah. So I think we're going to have to concentrate on Jordan. And now we have 2 offensives with a +1 versus Lebanon and Syria, which they're not threatening our position as much as the other 2 armies are. I think we have to go first with Jordan, since we only have 2 offensives. So let's try to push those Jordanians back to Jericho. We have no modifier, so we have to roll a 5 or a 6. Here we go. And the roll is a 5, so that's good. Go back to Jericho. We have 1 more offensive. See what the situation is here. Egyptians are in their number 2 spot, so they're going to get the 2nd offensive. So we have to roll higher than 3. And the roll is a 5, so the Egyptians are pushed back to Gaza. So this was a very productive turn. We pushed back both Jordanians and Egyptians. And let's see how many cards we have already played. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cards. So now let's take a look at the next card. And the next card is Galilee Air Squadron takes flight. So let's take a look at the flavor text. The Israeli Air Force came into being during this conflict. One of the first forces was the Galilee Air Squadron, established in March of 1948, in conjunction with air operations running out of Tel Aviv and Ramat David near Haifa. Israel obtained air superiority in the region by the fall of 1948. So let's take a look at any advances. Lebanon and Jordan advance. We have 3 offensives with a +1 versus Lebanon and Syria. So I left that marker there. I'm going to leave it there to remind us. +1 versus Lebanon and Syria. And the advances this turn are by Lebanon and Jordan. So Lebanon, which is the weakest army, advances from Acre to Haifa. And the other army that advances is Jordan, which is the strongest army. Jordan is at Jericho. Now it advances through Ramallah. Okay, so now we have 3 offensives. +1 versus Lebanon and Syria. Okay, let's try to push the Jordanians back first, because they are the hardest. And so here we go. We roll 1d6, and that's a 1. That's a failure. We have 2 left. And I guess, well, we have that +1 die roll modifier versus Lebanon and Syria, and Lebanon is in that number 2 box. I mean, we don't want the weakest army to beat us, right? So let's see how we can push the Lebanese out. So let's attack the Lebanese. 2nd attack against the Lebanese. And we have a +1 here. So here it's 4 + 1, 5. So the Lebanese go back to Acre. Okay. So now the threats are the Egyptians, and the Jordanians are in number 2. We have to attack the Jordanians. I don't see any other reasonable proposition. They're too close for comfort. So we have our last die roll, no modifications against the Jordanian army. The roll is a 3, and that is a fail. So that's the end of that turn, which was not very productive at all. And here you see the situation. The Jordanians are in the number 2 box. Now we go to the next card. Operation Yoav launched. Let's take a look at the flavor text. In October 1948, Israeli Southern Front Commander Yigal Allon spearheaded an assault to recapture the Negev desert, which ended up shattering Egyptian ranks and forcing a major retreat. And in this particular card, advances by Lebanon, Syrian, and Jordan. Oh boy. And we have one offensive or two if both are used versus Egypt. I don't think so. Okay, let's start by advancing Lebanon, Syrian, and Jordan. So the Lebanese are here at Acre. They advance to the number 2 spot, which is Haifa. The Syrians are in Safed, and they advance into Tiberias. Lebanon, Syria, and Jordan advances. So I think we're going to start burning those Israeli offensive markers. Jordan advances into East Jerusalem. So we have to attack Jordan. So that means we only have one offensive against Jordan, and we may have to start burning our markers, our Israeli offensive markers, which is always something you want to avoid. So here we go. We need to roll higher than 4 here. So here we go. Is this going to be a short game or what? Let's see. We roll. 3. That's a miss. Okay, so now we are going to burn our first Israeli offensive marker because we can't give us that luxury. So we burn it. There it goes. And now we roll again. We need higher than 4. Oh boy, 2. Okay, so we have to burn our second one. I didn't want the game to be that short. Okay, so we burn our second Israeli offensive marker. The second of 3, here we go. A 1. And I have to burn the third one because I don't know if in the next turn they're gonna advance, and that would be the end of it. So we burn our third Israeli offensive marker very early in the game. So here we go. We need 5 or 6 and 4. Oh boy, I hope that next card doesn't advance them because that's going to be the end of the game. So I think we're like 9 cards in. This is like awful if we lose the game this early. So let's see what the next card is. Okay, so we flip the next card, and it reads, Deir Yassin Massacre. Advance every slowest Arab army by 1 space. Well, the Jordanians are not the slowest ones because they are the ones closest to Jerusalem. So we still survive 1 more card. We get 3 offensives, but -1 to all attacks. That's terrible. 3 offensives, -1 to all attacks. So what I will be doing, I will be placing this marker here. Let's place it here in the sequence of play or around here. -1 against all attacks. And the slowest armies advance. Let's see which are the slowest armies here. The slowest army is really the Iraqi Army, which is in the number 3 box. So that's the only one that will advance, and it advances now into Domia. Okay, so now we have 3 attacks with a -1. Oh boy, this is painful to decide here because that means that if we are going to attack the Jordanians, we need to roll a 6. That's the only thing that will beat them. We have 3 rolls. I don't think we have much of a choice. So let's give them some space here. And we will use our first offensive. Here we go. That's 6 passed by a 5. That's reduced to a 4. That's a miss. Okay, we got 2 more. Here we go again. And a 3. That's another fail. And we have our last offensive. We have no Israeli offensive markers, so we need a 6. And the roll is a 2, so that also fails. And that's the end of this turn. And if the Jordanians are called to advance, that's the end of the game. So, oh boy, let's see what the next card is. Here we see We're going to flip the next card, and it reads, Burma Road opened by Mickey Marcus. And here Egypt and Lebanon advance. So we're still in the game. Let's take a look at the flavor text. On June 9, 1948, American Army Colonel David Mickey Marcus was able to lift the siege of Jerusalem by building, let me go back a little bit here, by building a winding and makeshift road into the city. He named it the Burma Road after the supply line opened to the Chinese during World War II. And in this particular card, Egypt and Lebanon advance. We have only one offensive with +1 against round spaces. Okay? +1 against round spaces. And the Jordanians are not in a round space. So only one offensive. But let's first advance Egypt and Lebanon. So Egypt is in Gaza and advances to Beersheba. Beersheba, right? Beersheba, okay. And the other one is Lebanon. You know, it'd be really pathetic if the Lebanese beat us, but you never know. So they are in Haifa, and now they are in Tel Aviv. They're also in the #1 spot. We only have one offensive, and so we have to guess which one will not advance in the next turn. I've seen the Lebanese advance a lot, but the Jordanians haven't advanced in a while. So what do you guys think? We only have one shot. Do we attack the Lebanese? We have a better chance of actually pushing them back. The Jordanians, it's a long shot. We need 5 or 6. But we only have one offensive. And now Egypt is in the #2 spot. So we have to go as to one of these. And we have here DLOD. How you doing? So Lebanese, it's almost assured a victory. So it's not going to be wasted. I'm inclined to live dangerously and go after the Lebanese and hope that Jordan doesn't advance. But I may be wrong. They may be called to advance. You know, you got to decide. So here, we will go with the Lebanese. So let's try to push the Lebanese back. We need higher than 2. Roll is a 4. So that was successful. And the Lebanese go back to Haifa. So we're still alive. And we're hoping that that next card isn't the Jordanians, because then that's the end of the game. So let's take a look here. Let's flip the next card, and the next card reads, Israelis shoot down British airplanes, Egypt, Syria, and Jordan advance. One offensive, it's too late. That calls for an advance by the Jordanians. And that's the end of the game, and we have lost. So we guessed wrong. If we would have pushed the Jordanians back, of course, the die roll, I think that we rolled, wouldn't have pushed the Jordanians back anyway. So that is a short game of Israeli independence. I wanted to try it for various reasons. I wanted to try it for, for trying that die roll application. I think it's good because it allows you to roll the dice fairly quickly and it doesn't get in the way of the game. Otherwise, you need to move the camera, focus on the dice tower, then return the camera. So I think it moves fine. So what do you guys think about that die rolling application? That's the end of the game. We have 21 people. It lasted 38 minutes. And I will be filming the playthrough of Gallipoli. I'm in turn 2. I'll be traveling to the Bellota Con in Spain. Let me put this camera back here. And let me see, just a second. And I'll be traveling to Spain. That is mid-January, to the Bellota Con. And hopefully I'll be doing a lot of videos. I'm taking some new equipment over there. The last time we had some problems with the Wi-Fi there, but I don't think we're going to have problems there. And I'll be shooting maybe 1 or 2 more turns of the Gallipoli video. So that's something that I have in mind. These States of Siege games live, I think they televise well. This is the simplest one. There's others. The other games are fantastic in terms of the options that you have. And this one is pretty exciting. I mean, it's die rolling. There's not a lot of strategy that, I mean, the strategy is pretty obvious. You know, you go against the closest enemy to Jerusalem. But I just wanted to try it more to see how it comes out. And I want to thank each and every one of you for sticking around. And we have Dead Wolf also. Ah, nice. Yes, I think I really like this die roll application. And we have also E4. You're going to look for that one where you're going to probably pay like $100. I don't know if you can get this one. I don't think Worthington is going to publish it, but it may be around. It's not super rare, but you may find it. So it's hard to find. Yes, some of these old titles are hard. I have all these States of Siege games because I always liked the concepts, and I always thought that it could be advanced and optimized to what we are seeing now in games that have the States of Siege mechanic. The one for, what was it? The Malta game is just fantastic. I really like that. Yeah. My luck in dice stays the same. Yeah. It's not all the strategy of the world won't save my die rolling. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so guys, I want to thank you all for sticking around during this particular transmission of this unannounced video. So I will leave you with the let me see. I'll leave you with the flyover outro. Okay. Thanks, guys. This is Stuka Joe signing off for now. And as always, thanks for watching. Take care.